Instead of doing a walk and talk, what a lot of people do, I'm going to do a play and talk. I'm going to play with my trains while I'm talking about some issues. 15 years ago, when my son was in high school, I told him, your generation's getting screwed over. And he said, well, what can I do about it? I said, well, you tell everybody about it. And that's what I've been trying to do on YouTube with my beekeeping videos, especially those. So I decided to try to do that with my train videos. And let me play with my trains while I'm telling you what's going on. And hopefully everything works out okay. All right, these are, wow. These are my Caslow cabs. And you see how the BC Rail has two pairs of ditch lights. I don't like the way Canadians have them angled. I angled them straight forward. But anyway, these are Kato Dash 9s with Caslow cabs. And I have a train coming up. And it is on this track here. So I got to get this train out of the way before this train gets up. So let me make sure that turnout's right. Let me get that train out of the way before that one gets up. And while I'm doing that, I will tell you, there's a lot of talk on YouTube. I've been following YouTube since 2018 about whether or not we're in recession or not. And 2018, at the end of the year after Christmas, there was a lot of decline in the stocks. So it was a pretty big issue back then. And then 2019, the economy was kind of iffy. And then the U.S. government did the COVID-19. Fauci in Canada. Anytime the U.S. government does anything, they do things for the rich people. Let's be real, that's what goes on. Oh shit, I screwed up. No, I didn't. Well, anyway, COVID happened. And then they told everybody stay home, can't go to work. And then after they got COVID under control and everybody went back to work, they claimed that the economy was improving, they created a lot of jobs. And that wasn't really the case. Everybody just went back to work. Train meet. Okay, so basically, if you want to know if we're in recession or not, follow the railroads. And pause. All right, what was I saying? If you want to know if we're in recession or not, check and see if they're storing any locomotives. Not old ones, I'm talking about the new ones. Warren Buffett, he sold a lot of stock. He owns BNSF. So maybe he knows what's going on. He may know before the rest of us do. But look and see if there's any locomotives stored. I know they doubled up on trains. They call it precision scheduled railroading. But they basically cut the number of railroad engineers and conductors. And they've made their trains twice as long. If you go on live rail cam, and you can see trains. Steel Highway has a count, but sometimes that's not really accurate. But what I'm getting at is, if there's a recession, the trains aren't going to be moving. There won't be as many moving as normal. You'll see a decrease in trains. All right, here we come with this loco here. Make sure the turnouts are right. See, I like these turnouts here. They're cheap. The only turnouts I have on a layout that are remote controlled is the ones over there in the corner of the room that I can't reach unless I go underneath the layout. So, you know, if you think Trump's on your side, Trump's a rich person. The rich people have been doing really well for many decades. This is basically what's going on. The owners, managers, and livestock. Basically, the rich people, the 1%, are the owners, and it's a deep state. Your Federal Reserve is part of the deep state. This has been going on since the robber barons of the 19th century. You know, when they created the railroads, they made a lot of money and they got richer and richer. And J.P. Morgan was one of the creators of the Federal Reserve. Oh, I don't know why I'm having trouble with that one. Let me pause. All right, if I have trouble with the locomotive, I'll put a track cleaning car in front of it. Apparently, this one has picked up some dirt on the wheels. I try to keep my track clean, but it's really difficult. So here we are. We got one train coming down to the lower level, BC Rail, and we got one coming up to the upper level. And this one will end up on the track where the BC Rail was, and it should end up right here. But anyway, what I was getting at, this is how things operate in this country. The owners control the managers with the managers of the government, your schools and your hospitals, and their data control the livestock, the people, we are the livestock. Then the chemicals in your food, these toxic chemicals that Robert Kennedy Jr. talked about, but they're not doing anything about after Trump was elected. That's causing you to get cancer, and they're making money off that. I know because my wife went through all this hospital treatments for her breast cancer. It's all about making money, okay? They don't really care about you. When I tell people this, they don't really believe your government would do that, but they're doing that. Okay, on George Carlin's comedy, watch some of his comedy. He knew what was going on 30 years ago about the rich people controlling the government. And again, this COVID is basically engineered to take over, get wealthier. A lot of people, they were unemployed. They lost their homes because of COVID. They couldn't make the payments on their house. The rich people want to own everything. That's what's going on. Smedley Butler, over 100 years ago, he was a Marine, most highly decorated Marine. He figured it out after being in the military for several decades, that the rich people are creating all these wars, or we're going to war for the rich people to serve the rich people so they can get richer. He wrote a book, War is a Racket, and President Eisenhower warned us in his farewell address that the military-industrial complex would take over this country, and they have. Because during World War II, a lot of people made a lot of money creating all these weapons and stuff for the war industry, and they didn't want it to stop. So they needed an enemy. So Soviet Union became our enemy after World War II. And then when the Soviet Union collapsed, it was the terrorists. They became our enemies. So let me pause. This train is done. All right. And where was I at? The older generations, I'm an electrical contractor. It seems like the only people I do work for is the older generations, the ones that were able to make money when they were younger and they had a good retirement. They worked 30 years at a place, and like GM, they retired from GM and they have a good retirement. And then Google U.S. national debt clock, and you'll see that our national debt is growing and growing. Like I said, I told my son 15 years ago that this national debt would eventually get larger and larger, that it would destroy the United States. And what happens is the U.S. can't go bankrupt. They'll create more money, and we'll have stagflation. There'll be so much money in the system or in the world economy, and the rest of the countries, the BRICS, will not accept the U.S. dollar anymore, and it's going to flood the United States. It's going to make everything expensive. And then your 401k is tied into the national debt. They're buying treasury bonds. And as long as the U.S. government pays the interest on the treasury bonds, you get your retirement. But as the national debt grows, the interest payment is going to get larger and larger. And if the U.S. ever defaults on the interest payment, you're not going to get your retirement anymore. Okay? That's how that works. It's not just foreign countries that own U.S. debt. It's also your 401k, these hedge funds. So as the national debt grows, it's going to get harder and harder for the U.S. government to pay the interest, and they're going to cut back on social programs. Your Social Security disability is going to get smaller and smaller. All right, and there's the Gaza Strip. You know, the U.S. has provided most of the bombs that Israel used to kill all these Palestinians. And now Trump being so nice, it's not safe to live in the Gaza Strip. He wants to remove the Palestinians so it can be rebuilt. His son-in-law, Kushner, is a developer just like Trump is. He wants to redevelop the Gaza Strip and make money. And there's also natural gas off the coast of Gaza that they want. Everything is about the rich people getting richer, okay? The U.S. has committed genocide over the last year and a half under the Biden administration, and Trump is going to continue it as soon as he realizes that the Palestinians aren't going to leave the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Israel's moved into the West Bank and they've started taking territory. So Trump is not a peacemaker. He got $100 million from I don't know the name of the Israeli, I forgot. But anyway, Israeli gave Trump $100 million for his campaign, and they really want the West Bank. They want to control the West Bank. So, like I was saying, the younger generations don't have any future. They don't have retirement. They can't get a job that gives them retirement. They hardly ever work for someplace for 30 years. They don't have houses. Like my house here, I'm 58 years old. My house, I don't have debt on my house. When I get old, I can sell my house, or I can live here and sell my house to somebody. Young people, they don't have that option. They don't have any retirement savings. They don't have a house. Basically, when they get 40, 50 years old, it's going to be too late for them. They're not going to have retirement. So the baby boomers of the last generation that have actual retirement, they can go south during the winter. They can have 2 or 3 houses, all right? So let me pause. That's why I bought cattle 25 years ago. I bought some Asher, but then I bought some cattle. The fact that they could go so slow and still maintain a good speed. Look at that loco. It's going through the yard so slow that I didn't know if it was going or not. I didn't know what the status was of this train. And here we are, leaving the yard. Oh, we got hung up on the turnout there. I can accelerate that train now, and the yard is almost empty. It doesn't happen too often. So let me accelerate that one. And let's get another train. 2876. Oh, I got the ditch lights already. Pushed the wrong. Okay. And then there's some locos I hardly ever use. We'll see if the string lines. And it's got a steep grade there, and it's a tight radius. It looks like it's going to be okay. So let me pause, and I'll show you some locos I hardly ever use, which I don't know why. All right, here's some Kato ST40s, HLCX. They're black, and I have the ditch lights tied into the headlight through a fiber optic cable, so you can't flash the ditch lights, and you can't turn off the ditch lights. All the lights are on. I started doing that first, one of my first custom locos, because that's the way I did a lot of Katos. But then later on, I did the ditch lights. So just to go over this real quick, did I mention the toxic chemicals in your food? I have honeybees, and I know why my honeybees are dying. Instead of getting 5 to 6 months out of them through winter, I can only get 3 to 4. So if I go into winter with small colonies, I tried that over a year ago. I wanted to sell some honeybee colonies, and nobody bought them. So I had a lot of small colonies, and because they were too small to get through winter, most of them didn't make it through winter. It never fails. Whenever you're doing video, that's when you have issues. These toxic chemicals that are killing my honeybees are causing you to get cancer. But the rich people make money when you get cancer. Like I said, my wife went through this. It's all about money. The rich people, they own the hospitals. See? They own the hospitals. They profit from the money that the hospitals make. The hospitals are basically managing your health. They don't want you to be healthy. Have you noticed that people are fat? They keep us stupid so that we don't realize what's going on in this country. That it's not really democracy. Both parties, Republicans and Democrats, are controlled by the rich. If you look at the money they get for their campaigns, some rich people will give money to both sides. It's that way so that they can control whoever wins. All right. Here's a Trinity. Here's a Trinity covered hopper. I've mentioned in a previous video that the more expensive freight cars don't work as well. I bought 2 of these. Athearn Genesis Trinity hopper, and I wish I would have never bought it. It's a pain in the ass. It derails a lot. These are, some of these are Walthers, but they're basically the blue box ones work better. I had to get special Cadies for those Trinities. So I can pick up on that one where I left off. And this is the Montana Rail Link branch line. What would happen is I always got to make sure there's locos on the other end. There's only 3 tracks on the branch line. If I don't have any locos on the other end and I block them all in, I can't get a loco. I'd have to bring a loco up all the way from down below. So this train here will go into an empty track, and that center track there has a pair of locos. That train will leave, and I can move these locos back on the other side of this train and pull it out. So here we got this other train coming up. I got my coal train on that track. So let's put this train through here. And you always got to keep track of what you have where. I made a fool of myself in that other video when I was running a bunch of trains in and out of the yard. Towards the end, I just got overwhelmed by what was going on, and I had so many problems by not catching trains in time. So here's this BC Rail. I want to do an SD40-2 with this paint scheme just because it's so cool. And forgive the track cleaning car in front of it, but it runs much better when you have a clean track. I got a bug there. It came off the window. So this video is almost 19 minutes right now. Let me well, let's just see if this goes through here. Whoops, what happened here? Whoa, I ran into I didn't get that turned out in time. There we go, again, making a fool of myself. I rammed the back of a line of freight cars in the yard. Whoop. Going through the yard at 40 miles per hour, 40 on the speed. I'm going to end up basically where I was over there. Of course, that was a different video. That video didn't work out. Alright, I'm going to stop this train and go back to this one over here. Alright, as I was saying, this is one I don't use very often. It's been sitting here and getting dusty. It's got my sister. There's 2 of them, one for me and my son. That was the whole plan when I started doing these, but my son hasn't really gotten involved with the locomotives. I don't know what's wrong with him, and I'm getting to a point where I don't care. I don't know if it's because he's upset because he's never going to have a house. 32 years old, and he's still working at Taco Bell and working in the same town where he went to college, living in an apartment. Well, dirty track. Okay, I'm going to end the video now. Thank you.